put it that way. And yeah,
Right, right.
yeah. Okay, Tony, are you in the room?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Ross, my first question for you would be, in your opinion, why do you think the rise of Neo-Ussherianism, also known as Young Earth Creationism, is so prevalent, especially in America?
I think it goes back to the Scopes trial, where evangelicals were so humiliated by that trial that they said, we have to fight back. And so I think it's really a desire to strike back at scientists. And I kind of put it in the analogy I use is Acts 15. In Acts 15, you had Jewish believers really not wanting Gentiles to fellowship with them. So they said, what can we do to keep the Gentiles away? Well, we're going to tell them they have to be circumcised before they can join our congregation. And that was an effective barrier to keep them away. And I've noticed throughout church history that these church splitting controversies that have got nothing to do with the basic doctrines of the Christian faith, each one is targeting an unwelcome people group. And I can't think of anything more odious for a scientist or an engineer other than to tell them, look, if you want to be a Christian, you got to believe that the earth and the universe are less than 10,000 years. And so it's been a very effective tool to keep the scientists and engineers out of the church. And when I've debated young earth creationist scientists, what I notice is to a man and a woman, they treat the scientific community as an enemy to be destroyed rather than a mission field to be won. Just like what was going on in the early church. And therefore, I think we need to take on these church splitting controversies, get them resolved, but realize if we ever resolve this young earth controversy, it's probably going to be replaced by another controversy targeting an unwelcome people group. I don't know what the next unwelcome people group will be, but I can tell you this, I have an astronomer friend who got kicked out of 4 consecutive churches, not because he was preaching an old earth doctrine. In fact, he tried to keep his employment as an astronomer a secret. But he says inevitably people would find out I'm an astronomer, and on that basis alone, they would tell me I was no longer welcome to attend their church. So I think that's what's really going on. The other thing I think is causing it to persist is this idea that a loving, all-powerful God would not kill animals. And the old earth perspective has the death of animals taking place before the sin of Adam. And so they want to blame all animal death on the sin of Adam. But I like to point out to my young earth friends, Adam was not the first sinner. Satan was. And we have no evidence from the Bible on the date when Adam sinned. So he could have sinned long before God created the animals. And I also note that in Romans 5, it states that human death was introduced by Adam's sin, not animal death. Notice Romans 5:12 says, sin through death came to all people. Only people can sin. So Paul actually gives you 2 qualifications. This is a death that happens to those who sin, and it goes to all people. He didn't say all life. And so I've been able to persuade some of my young earth friends that, hey, this idea that an all-powerful, all-loving God would not tolerate the death of animals is a misplaced sentimentalism. Just notice that God saw fit to have his own son die so that we could live. Notice throughout all the New Testament epistles, the message, the only way you can live is to die. And therefore, I think it's a mistake to label death in all contexts as fundamentally evil.
Thank you for that. I only had one other question for you. In your book, A Matter of Days, you talk about a concept called Young Earth Darwinism.
Yes.
Specifically, the limits of natural selection and the puzzling fossil record. And I wondered if you could expand a little bit more than what you said in the book.
Right. I'm basically making the point that if you look at atheism, theistic evolution, old Earth creationism, young Earth creationism, it's the young Earth creationists that believe in evolution to the most extreme degree. Two places they need it. Their model says no carnivorous activity until Adam sinned. And so they need to have all these herbivores, or at least some of these herbivores, rapidly evolve into carnivores. And this is really dramatic evolution. When you consider sharks, for example, have a liver that's 1/3 their body weight. And so the whole anatomy of the shark would have to be changed to go from eating vegetable matter, being able to eat fat-rich flesh. And so a second place they have it is at Noah's flood, because they believe that the flood was global in extent, wiped out all land-dwelling animals, and they recognize that the ark would have had a limited carrying capacity. And so you would have millions of species of land life evolving from the few thousand that were on board the ark. And as many atheists, evolutionary biologists have pointed out, these young Earth creationists believe in evolution at a pace that's at least 10,000 times, if not 1,000,000 times greater than anything they've ever considered. Now, as I talk to my young Earth friends, they say, we don't believe in evolution. We believe in diversification. But the way they define diversification is exactly the way Darwinists define evolution. There is no difference. But yeah, I point out in navigating, navigating Genesis, that this idea that God created species with these super genomes that very rapidly diversified into all these creatures, it's biochemically impossible for that to happen. Any biochemist realizes that what they're hypothesizing is simply not possible given the physics of the universe. But keep in mind, young Earth creationists do believe that the laws of physics radically changed at the fall of Adam and at the flood. And by radical, they need the constants of physics to change in some cases by a factor of 1,000,000,000 times. But that can be countered by the fact that there's 7 places in the Bible that tell us the laws of physics do not change. And of course, we got measurements in astronomy that likewise verify that biblical claim that at no time in the past was there any change in the laws of physics. And incidentally, I found that to be probably the most effective tool for persuading young Earth creationists that the Bible is an old Earth book, just to point out all the places where it talks about the laws of physics not changing until the redemptive work of Jesus Christ has been completed. And that means that there's no room for altered laws of physics, and every young Earth model critically depends on radically altered physics.
Thank you. That's all I had for you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
All right. I guess it's my turn now. So now, Hugh, have you